Your tenant just gave notice that they'll be moving out. Now what? We all know that vacancy is a cash flow killer, so it's important to have an efficient, well-documented turnover process to reduce the time between tenants. Hello, I'm Megan. I love investing in real estate and empowering others to do the same. Turnovers are not the most fun, but fear not. In today's video, we'll walk step by step through the process that I use for quick and easy tenant turnovers. My rental turnover process has 7 main steps. 1. Move-out procedures. 2. Professional photos. 3. Listing the unit. 4. Showing the unit. 5. Collecting applications and screening tenants. 6. Unit make ready. 7. New tenant move-in. I find that when I follow this process, all 7 steps, and I start it early before my existing tenant has even moved out, I'm usually able to reduce my vacancy between tenants to less than 2 weeks. Between that and the fact that I screen my tenants really well and they usually stay for 2, 3, or more years, I have really minimal vacancy in my rental portfolio. So I hope today's video helps you create a great turnover process and minimize vacancy, because that means more cash flow. Step 1, move-out procedures. Before you even list a unit for rent, you need to make sure that your existing tenants know what to expect from the move-out process. This makes everything smoother for you, for them, and for the incoming tenant. I think a key ingredient to making this whole turnover process smooth is having a clause in your lease that states that you are allowed to show the unit 30 to 60 days prior to the existing tenant leaving. So if you don't already have this clause in your lease, make sure you go add it. It makes it so much easier if the tenant that you have in place is clean and the home is in good repair. If you're able to show the unit a couple times before they even move out, it really reduces your vacancy time. So let's say you have this clause in your lease that states you can show the unit before the existing tenant moves out. What we're going to do as part of our move-out procedures is send a move-out procedures email to the tenants. And I just have a simple Google email template that I use. And there are 3 key features in this move-out procedures email that I send. First of all, a reminder that I can show the unit before they move out. And of course, I let them know that I'll give them plenty of notice before I bring anyone through their unit. Second, a tenant responsibilities checklist. This reminds the tenant of all the things they're responsible for repairing and cleaning before they leave, and it can really reduce my make ready time in between tenants. Third is a list of common deductions from their security deposit. What this does is just reinforces the importance of them following that tenant duty checklist, because technically if they have holes in the walls, or if they don't replace batteries in the smoke detectors and light bulbs and all the light fixtures, or if it's really dirty and I have to hire someone to do an extra deep clean, any of those things could be charged back to them in form of a withholding from their security deposit. I don't actually want to do that. I'd rather just remind them and incentivize them to follow that tenant duty checklist so that I have a quick and easy turnover between tenants. As soon as I've sent that move-out procedures email with the attachments to my tenant, I schedule a walkthrough. And this is just a quick walkthrough for me or one of my team members to take a look at the unit and understand, what are the make-ready needs going to be? Is it just a little bit of touch-up here and there? Or is it going to be a whole lot of work that's going to take days or weeks? And also, is it in good enough shape and clean enough and organized enough that I could walk prospective tenants through it before the current tenant moves out? Once I've done that quick walkthrough, I also make sure to schedule my make-ready team to come in the day after my tenant moves out. So this could be a contractor if it's big needs, or maybe just a handy person and or a cleaner. Finally, as part of the move-out procedures, I make sure I submit a request with my city for the occupancy inspection, because I want to make sure I schedule it out in advance so it can happen the day after, or maybe just a few days after the tenant moves out if I need some extra time for make-ready needs. I want that on the books so that I can get the inspector through the property and get my occupancy permit as soon as possible so it's ready when the new tenant is coming in. Now, occupancy is different with every state and city and county, so you have to make sure you know what the occupancy requirements are in your area. It might not even be required, but in my area, I have to do an occupancy permit every time a tenant moves. Step 2, professional photos. It's really important to have great photos, and maybe if your phone camera is good enough and you have a really good eye, you're able to do this by yourself, but I found that it's really worth my while to spend the $150 to $200 it takes to have a professional come through and photograph my units. The payback on that $150 to $200 is great, because I can use those same photos for years and years to come if I'm not making big updates to the unit. Once I get those photos from the professional photographer, I make sure to create a photo album in my files so that I can always go back to the same place and have all the photos ready when I need to put that rental listing up again. Now, one more thing to consider with professional photos is staging. In most cases, it doesn't make sense to physically stage a rental property, but there are 2 ways that you could potentially stage your rentals. First of all, if you have an existing tenant in place and they've beautifully decorated the home and it's clean and they don't mind you photographing with their stuff in there, you can use their furnishings as your staging. You might want to offer them a little something a little credit towards their last month of rent or whatever, a gift card somewhere for this. But if they've got it really well done, why not use that as your staging? If not, if you're maybe photographing an empty unit, then you can usually find a photographer in this day and age who can virtually stage the property. And so even though it's just a rental, it's not a home on the market for sale, I think it really helps prospective tenants to see themselves in the space when they see some nice light virtual staging in the photos. Step 3, listing the unit for rent. I think one of the most important parts to a good listing is understanding the platforms where your listing will do the most good. What platforms work best for your area and your type of rental? If you're using any kind of tenant management portal or property management portal, you're probably creating the listing through there. So that's going to provide some sort of template for you to remind you of all the things you need to put into the listing. And then it will send it out to a whole bunch of different websites that show properties for rent. I do this through my tenant management portal, and I find that pretty much all of the inquiries that I get back come from apartments.com. So even though they send my listings to several different websites, apartments.com seems to be the one that works the best for my area. However, I recently was talking to some fellow landlords and found out that they put their rental listings on Facebook Marketplace. I never really thought to do that, and I didn't know if it would work that well, but they said it was great. So I tried it on my last listing, and 50% of my leads came from Facebook Marketplace. So in my area, for the types of rentals that I'm putting out there, I find that I get about half of my leads from apartments.com and half of my leads from Facebook Marketplace. The timing of your listing is important as well. If you really want to minimize that vacancy time, I suggest listing your unit at least 30 days before the existing tenant moves out. All my tenants are required to give me 30-day notice. That's pretty standard. So as soon as I found out that they're moving out and I've sent them the move out procedures, I start getting my listing ready. Again, if the unit is in good shape, you should be able to show it before that current tenant even leaves. So it's important to get it out there in front of the eyes of prospective tenants. So before we move on, let's talk about a few key things to include in your listing. Obviously, you can get creative. There's a lot of different things you could include in a rental listing, but here are the bare minimum things that I think every rental property owner should include in their rental listing. First of all, the address. Seems obvious. Next, the monthly rent, security deposit amount, and any other fees like maybe a pet rent fee. Third, the date the unit will be available. It's really important to include that. I think a lot of prospective tenants kind of don't pay attention to that, but you want to make sure that people understand that if it's going to be available on September 1st, you're not looking for someone who wants to move in November. You want to fill that unit in September. Great photos, we just talked about that. An informative and inviting description. So this is where you can add a little something to your listing. Make sure, of course, you have the basic information in there, like your bed and bath count, the square footage, but also talk up any updates and key features of the home. You can also use the listing description to explain the area and what's great about the area. Is it a great school district? Is it close to nightlife? Is it close to where a lot of people in your area work? Whatever is great about the location, make sure you include that in your listing description as well. I also like to include the utilities covered by the landlord versus the tenant. This is part of the financial decision for the incoming tenants, so it's important for them to understand that in my units, they're gonna have to cover electric and gas themselves. Towards the bottom of the listing, I include my lease terms. For instance, it's gonna be a 12-month lease, pets are negotiable, and there's a pet fee, other terms like that. And finally, the minimum qualification standards. They need to know that they have to have 3 times the rent as gross monthly income, that their credit score has to be 600 and above, and all the other things that I require to approve a tenant. And finally, contact information. Usually if you're filling out some sort of form to get these listings put together in your tenant management portal, it's going to have your contact information in there, but just make sure if you're throwing out there on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or some other spot that you include that, because no listing is going to do you any good if they can't get a hold of you. Step 4, showing the unit. So as you start to get inquiries, I always make sure that I'm responding to these inquiries within 24 business hours. Responsiveness is very important. Prospective tenants want to know that they're coming into a place where their concerns will be heard if they have a maintenance or repair request, and that starts with quick responses to their inquiries about the property to begin with. Now, I love my templates, so usually I'll send another Gmail template to the prospective tenant, which restates the minimum qualification standards, because I really want to make sure they know going into it that if they apply and they don't meet those, they're not going to get approved. And I also provide the application link right away. Whether or not they are approved, I want to make sure everyone feels they've had the fair shot at applying for the property. So Before they even seen the property, I send them an application link. I make it clear they don't have to apply to view the property, but I do send it up front so they have it from day one. Next, I set open house type showings for prospective tenants. It can take a lot of time to get through all the prospective tenants who are getting through to you. My existing tenant isn't being put out too much. It's just 1 hour once per week, usually on a Saturday or Sunday, and I get as many prospective tenants through during that hour as I can. Of course, if your tenant moves out and you still don't have an application that's been approved, then you can do that as often as you like. But I think the open house showings are really nice because it's way more efficient for you. And also it could potentially create a little feel of excitement about the property. If people see there are a lot of people walking through it, maybe they'll be a little quicker on their application process. Step 5, collecting applications and screening tenants. As I said in the last step, make sure that every prospective tenant gets a link to your application, no matter what. I also make sure that I let the tenants know how the approval process works. Usually this is just in a conversation, but you could also add it to an email template if you'd like. I state that in the case of multiple qualified tenants, we basically do it on a first come, first served basis. So if someone can move in on September 1st and the other person can't move in until September 15th, the qualified tenant who could move in September 1st gets the unit. If there are 2 tenants who could move in on September 1st, whoever got their full application into me first gets the unit. So I make sure they understand how I'm going through this process, and I'm not cherry picking who's gonna live there. If they're qualified, and I have a fair process for determining who gets the units. And I think it goes without saying that it's so important to screen prospective tenants well. This is such a big topic that instead of trying to cover it in today's video, I'm going to do my next video all on how I screen tenants, and I will walk you step by step through that process. Step 6 is unit make ready. So earlier in the process, you already pre-scheduled most of this work to happen. You pre-scheduled when you would have your contractor or handy person or cleaner come through, hopefully the day after your existing tenant moves out, to get all that make ready work done. You also pre-scheduled your occupancy inspection. So hopefully as soon as make ready is done, you have the inspector coming through to give you your occupancy permit as well. So when a unit is in pretty good shape, I can usually get through these steps in just a day or two within the previous tenant leaving the property, and my new tenant's gonna be able to move in just a couple days later. Quick note during the make ready process, make sure that you or your contractor are noting what is normal wear and tear versus what is something that would have been a tenant responsibility, because you do want to know and document for the disposition of the security deposit what was a tenant responsibility that was withheld from that security deposit. Again, hopefully you don't have to withhold anything. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but you want to have it really well documented if you do have to. Step 7, new tenant move-in. Congratulations, you found your new tenant, hopefully quickly. Here's what you need to do to get them ready to move in. Once again, I use a Gmail template to send them all the instructions for next steps between the time that they're approved and the time that they move in. They're gonna need to pay the security deposit, sign the lease, turn on utilities in their name, buy renter's insurance, pay the first month's rent and any additional fees. I have a one-time pet fee if they have pets, and make sure that they schedule a time for their new tenant orientation. It's really important to collect their security deposit as soon as possible, and do not take the listing down until you have that security deposit in hand. If you approve a tenant and they pay that deposit, you want it to be clear, and there's actually a document I use in my lease that says it's a deposit to hold. Once they have paid it and I've taken the listing down, there's now marketing expenses and time that it would take me to get all that back up if they back out before they sign the lease. So it's important to collect that quickly and do not remove your listing until they have paid that deposit to hold, which becomes their security deposit once they have signed the lease and moved in. And finally, just make sure you set that time for the new tenant orientation. This is where you will walk them through the unit and do a move-in inspection. You'll make sure you answer any final questions they have about the unit, and you hand off those keys. Yay, you filled your unit, hopefully quickly, hopefully in less than 2 weeks. Congratulations. There are some post-move-out considerations that I just wanted to add in here before we close the video for your previous or your outgoing tenant. Make sure you have it on your calendar or somewhere in your processes to send them their security deposit. You should have a disposition of deposit statement, which states what their security deposit was, what, if any, withholdings there were, and what you are returning to them. The amount of time you have to return a security deposit varies by state, but in the United States, across all 50 states, generally falls between 14 and 60 days after the previous tenant moved out. I have included below a link to a list where I outlined and searched it, and I outlined the amount of time you have across all 50 states in the US. So go check that out. Another idea, if you have a business website or a Google business profile or some place where you can collect reviews, is to ask your previous tenant for a review. If you're in an area where there are a lot of really professional professionally managed rentals and also lots of mom and pops, which I think is most markets, you want to make sure that even if you are a smaller operator, you aren't going to come across as some mom and pop landlord who's not going to be responding to them on time and it'll be a bad experience. So make sure that you're finding a way to collect reviews if you have that capability that could help prospective tenants in the future see that you're an awesome landlord. A great turnover process can allow you to get through 80% of the turnover steps before your outgoing tenant even moves, and that goes a long way to reduce vacancy. So I hope today's video has helped you think through some ways that you can optimize your turnover process. As always, leave any questions you have in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe because soon I'll be coming out with a video that really dives deeply into the tenant screening process. And remember to keep learning, keep growing, and have fun.